everyone. Thank you all for joining us today as we continue to celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month with this brown bag discussion, De Cenizas a Llamas, meaning from ashes to flames. I would like to take some time to invite you to our upcoming events during Hispanic Heritage Month. Next Thursday, October 1st, we will be showing the movie Selena from 7 to 10 p.m. in the Student Union patio. On October 7th, there will be a panel discussion with successful Latinos in our community in the Stockdale room, the one we're at right now, from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. And then on lastly, to close up Hispanic Heritage Month on October 15th, there will be a travel around Latin America, and where you can enjoy some music, food, and fun activities from 3 Latin nations. And that's from 11:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. And if anyone's part of the Hispanic Heritage Committee, if you could please stand up right now to be recognized. Okay, and it is my pleasure to introduce to you this unique individual who's originally from Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, and moved to Bakersfield 7 years ago. He has encountered many obstacles, including going without food for days, to extreme dieting to be able to participate in an upcoming MMA fight. He is here today to tell us his life story and how he became the successful individual he is today. Let us give a warm welcome to MMA fighter, reality TV star, hip-hop artist, and breakdancer, JC Llamas.
How you guys doing today? English is not my first language, so if I say a word that you guys don't understand, please correct me, okay? And also, I'm sorry I have a lot of scars, so a bunch of cuts. I just had an event last weekend in Las Vegas. I got another belt, and so this is why you guys shouldn't fight. My name is JC Llamas, and it's a great honor to be here. A good friend of mine invited me, and just to share some of my life stories with you guys. And please fasten your seatbelts because I'm taking you to a different world. I was born in Puerto Vallarta, Jalisco, Mexico, and I grew up most of my youth with my brother, my grandmother, in a very poor neighborhood in a small town called San Vicente, Nayarit. It's like 30 minutes from Puerto Vallarta. My grandfather passed away when I was 6 years old. My mom and dad, they were separated, and they live in different states, so me and my brother and my grandma have to live together most of my youth. We had to find a way to survive because my grandmother did not have a job, and me and my brother were like 7 and 6 years old. We were too small to work for a company, so we started working on everything we could, like washing cars, selling fruit, bread, fishing, cleaning jars, and my grandmother worked with us, like same thing, doing whatever we could to survive. And we have very hard times. Some days we do not have food or water, and several times not even electricity for months. And my grandmother always found a way to bring food to the table to keep us alive. In the neighborhood, we had all type of people. We had lots of poor people, rich people, drug dealers, thugs, killers, thieves, also amazing athletes, humble people, and people that did not want to see you succeed. Growing up, I became adaptable to the streets and the hard life that we were living. I had to find ways to survive, to provide for me and my family, so I became a mil usos, meaning good for 1,000 things. I started playing sports, basketball, soccer, and many others. I started learning very fast, and I used that talent to generate money. For example, we play soccer games for like 50 cents, and if we win, we use that money to eat or to pay the bills. And if we lose, there's no food for that day. So I became a hustler by the age of 9 years old. And I knew how to play the game and bring food to our table. I tried to make money any way possible. At school, I charged some of my classmates to do the homework or the exams. I was very smart, also very dumb because I got caught several times and I almost got expelled. I also had lots of fights at school because there were a lot of bullies at my school, and because of my hair. I have a brown, reddish, curly hair, and when it gets long, it turns into a red afro. So my nickname was Chino. It means curly hair, and kids made fun of it, and I had 100 other nicknames that I did not like. By the age of 12, I started writing songs, mostly raps. By the age of 14, I had wrote like 200 songs, but I couldn't record any of them because I did not have any equipment or the money to pay to do it, or anybody was willing to help me do it. So I adapted to the music as well. I started little by little collecting music equipment to be able to record my music and to create beats, but it was almost impossible because the money and the struggle. I started breakdancing and skateboarding by the age of 15, and I fell in love with it. I wanted to be the best breakdancer and skater, so I started training very hard. And a few weeks later, I did a show for a quinceañera. It's like the Sweet 16 in my hometown, and that's when everything changed. People love it. They were buying me food, drinks. I became a local celebrity for a few hours, and I loved that feeling. I didn't have to worry about food anymore or water for a few hours. So I made it my goal. I wanted to be a professional dancer. I didn't even knew that something like that existed, but I trained very hard and I started teaching kids from my town, and I made a dancing, skateboarding, rappers group. We made breakdancing, skateboarding, and rap battles popular in my town and the cities around. I started competing in all three things, and I was winning the tournaments and making some extra cash. And I started using that money to build a little recording studio. One day, a 35 and 40-year-old guy, he came to my hometown, the Kiosco. It's like a little center of a small park where people hang out. And he was staring at me when I was breakdancing. And he approached and asked me if I want to do a show in front of many people. He said he was a professional dancer and choreographer. I said sure, but I didn't really believe him. He came back a week later and he was very serious about it. So he told me to meet him in a very fancy 5-star hotel. So I went and auditioned for them, and they hired me. And I started breakdancing for them once or twice a month. And they sent a big bus to my house to pick me up and to take me to the show and to bring me back to my house. I feel blessed. I got free food, free drinks, and like $10 per show. I was very happy. I asked for a job at the resort in the water sports department, and I became the kayak surfer and windsurfer instructor, and also renting jet skis to the customers, dancing 2 to 3 times per month. At the age of 15, I was working only 3 hours per day because I was going to the school in the morning, Saturday and Sunday, 10 hours a day. It wasn't a lot of money, but I didn't have to worry about food anymore. A few months later, they asked me if I can do more than breakdancing, and I said yes. I started doing acrobatics, Michael Jackson impersonation, jazz, ballet, salsa, merengue, etc., etc. I became a professional dancer, and I started learning English, Italian, and Portuguese. I was still hustling at school, doing other people's exams, homework, and also betting money sports and chess games. I started playing chess every day, and I became a national champion. By the age of 16, I finally were able to save money and got most of the basic economic recording studio, and I started recording some of my songs and making some of my own beats. It was a disaster in the beginning, but I learned more and more, and with the time I got good at it. And I named my recording studio La Familia Records. I was still competing in breakdancing all around Mexico, but my goals were bigger now. I didn't just want to become a professional dancer. I wanted to meet the creators of breakdance and hip hop. I wanted to be a TV star, do music videos, be able to provide for my family more than what I was able to bring because it still wasn't enough. As soon as I turned 18, I got my passport, and I got hired in different companies around the world, doing my dancing shows, acrobatics, and music. By the age of 19, I was one of the main dancers and choreographers in a very famous 5-star hotel in the Bahamas. I worked there for 5 months, and I got a call from home that made me cry and changed my goals and dreams. It was my mom telling me that my grandmother got diagnosed with cancer and they needed me there. So I quit my job and I took the first flight back home. I got there and it broke my heart seeing my grandmother sick. So I did everything I could to help her and get her better right away. I started looking for a job back home because the medicines were so expensive and there were no help from the government or my family. A few months later, she got better. But the money I was bringing from work in Mexico, it wasn't enough to cover the cost for the medicines and to pay the bills. I needed to come to the U.S. to be able to keep my family alive and healthy. I moved to the U.S. and I didn't really know exactly what I was going to do for a living. So for a while, I did little jobs here and there, like helping people, cleaning houses, construction. I was also an electrician and a welder. I got my electromechanic degree back in Mexico, so I did whatever I could. Eventually, I stopped dancing professionally. I didn't really saw enough money to provide for my family. I started working at Bright House. I don't know if you guys know Bright House, the cable company. I also went back to school to get my engineering fiber optics degree. Things started to get more stable, and I was able to keep doing my music, but I wasn't satisfied. I wanted to be someone important, work harder than everybody in my company, and for like 5 years, never miss a single day of work or call sick. I got the most sales, also Employee of the Month, Employee of the Year. I climbed the ladder, and I was the best installer and service technician in all California. But it wasn't enough still. I worked so hard, and I had a good position, and my pay was better than before, but it was barely enough to pay for my bills and my family bills. I needed something else. I got introduced to martial arts, mostly jiu-jitsu, at the age of 24, and I fell in love with it. Even though I was only able to train once or twice a week, I was thinking about it 24/7, watching tutorial videos on YouTube every time I got a chance. I learned very fast, faster than anything I did before, and in 3 months later, I decided to put my skill to the test, and I competed in a national tournament called Grappler Quest in Las Vegas. I competed in 2 divisions, gi and no gi, and after 2 long days of competition, I ended up winning 2 gold medals. And that's when it hit me and made me realize that this is what I want to do in life. But I was still new and I have no idea how to generate money from it. I got addicted to the competition. I was competing every other week. I kept winning every single match and progressing in my abilities. I did few exhibition shows, fights, Fight for Life, charity event to help raise money for cancer awareness, and a lot of jiu-jitsu competitions. Everything was going great until I got another call from Mexico around 3 in the morning, and it was my mom again telling me that my grandmother was very sick. We needed a lot of money to take her to the hospital and pay for everything. I sent everything I had and still wasn't enough. I needed $600 more by the end of the week or they would not help her anymore. I was so desperate and I asked some of my friends for a loan, but they were having some problems too, so I asked someone I knew if he can find me a fight where they pay $600 or more. He told me there's a fight coming up in 4 days at Eagle Mountain Casino. I don't know if you guys know the casino. So he told me, but they only pay $500 if you win and $300 if you lose. I accepted my first professional fight with only 5 months of jiu-jitsu experience, no MMA experience or any amateur fights before. The fight was 170 pounds. I was walking around 197. I had to weigh in 170 pounds. So I had to lose 27 pounds. So if I don't make the weight, I won't be able to fight. So I stopped eating and I started training and running like crazy. In the morning, like around 4 a.m., and leave to work before 7 a.m., come back from work around 7 or 8 and go run again at night. And just enough water just to survive because I needed to make weight. I did not have any experience in MMA, only 5 months of jiu-jitsu. My opponent was a well-rounded fighter with over 10 years of professional experience. So my first fight ever, I was going to fight a very tough opponent. Finally, the day to weigh-ins came. I made weight. I was very dehydrated and I passed out several times trying to make weight, but I did make weight and rehydrate that day and fought the next day. 30 seconds into the first round, I got tired. A combination of adrenaline and my inexperience got me so tired, but I kept pushing forward, punching and kicking wild and without technique. The second round was even worse. I never felt this weak and tired before. I was throwing hundreds of punches and kicks, hoping some of them land. My opponent was very cautious about my attacks. He was mostly blocking. The third round started, and in my head it felt like an eternity. It was only 3 minutes, but I was exhausted and I couldn't even breathe. My body was giving up on me. My arms felt so heavy. My legs couldn't hold my body, but in my heart, I couldn't stop. There was no option of quitting. Losing was not an answer. I needed to win to be able to pay for my grandmother's medicine, so I kept pushing and kicking until the last second. And after 3 long rounds of work, I got a big cut on my forehead and also a unanimous decision victory over a great fighter. I got paid right away. I sent the money to my family back in Mexico, and thanks to MMA, I was able to save my grandmother. I realized that I love MMA for a few reasons. 1, I love the competition. 2, I was good at it. 3, it was the only thing that were able to save my family. So I made it a goal to train harder and become a champion. I did a couple more fights with a little bit more of training and technique. I got a successful beginning, but It was very hard to train or find a place to practice after work because by the time I finished working around 7 or 8, all the gyms were closed. So I had to make the hardest decision of my life. Keep working and pay my family bills, or to find a new path in MMA and try to make money doing it and help my family. My brother had a bad injury on his head, a bad accident in his bicycle. A car hit him and run. And he started developing a strange type of schizophrenia. And it was a new bill to pay. My grandmother was very sad, and I talked to her and I promised her that I would take care of him and my family. Things started coming along very good until I got a phone call in a Saturday night. It was my mom crying, telling me that my grandmother passed away. I felt that part of me died when I heard those words. She was and is still my hero, my inspiration, my motive, the reason to do what I do. And when she died, I had no more reason to keep going, except the promise I made her, that I would take care of my brother. I had a very sad year because my father got sick. He got a heart attack and he was in a coma for a week. Someone stole all his lifetime savings, and we were still sad from our grandmother's tragedy. I talked to my father when he was sleeping, and I told him not to worry, that everything is gonna be okay, that I would take care of the family. And I knew he was listening to me because he smiled at me before he passed away. I was very sad and broken, but my grandmother told me, well, be strong and get up when you fall. I quit my job to reach my goals, and I started training like never before. I had one more fight a couple months later, and it was easier to make weight. My opponent was 15 pounds heavier in the weigh-ins, so they paid me 40% of his wins. Next day, I finished my opponent on the 32nd of the first round. I put him to sleep with a submission, and I won my fight and also submission of the night bonus. A few months later, I was approached by a UFC co-founder, Campbell McLaurin, and also Bonnie Mary Production, the biggest company in the world for reality television, asking me if I want to be part of the biggest Hispanic MMA TV show, Combat the Americas. I was a little skeptical about it, but something inside me told me go for it. I accepted, and I moved to Miami for several months to film the TV show. I made a promise to my grandmother that I would take care of my brother's illness and my mother, and make her proud, so this is a good way to start. I fight my way to the top in the TV series Combat the Americas. They selected the 10 best Hispanic MMA fighters around the world, and I was one of them. There was 11 challenges in the show. I won first place in 8 of them and second place in 3 of them. I left my competition behind. My motive was the promise I made to my grandmother. I was the winner of the Combat the Americas challenges, and I got second place in the fight. In 2014, I was nominated for the Best Welterweight of the Year, Submission of the Year, and Young Fight of the Year. I won the award for the Best Welterweight of the Year. My TV career went from 0 to 100. I was nominated the Best TV Moment in 2014 Premios Tu Mundo by NBC Universal and Telemundo. I started seeing my face in huge billboards, buses, TV ads all over the U.S., also doing a lot of TV appearances, radio shows, talk shows, newspaper, TV commercials, etc. I decided to start acting, so I started doing auditions, and I got booked for my first 2 TV commercials nationwide by Pepsi, as one of the main stunts characters for one of the commercials. Then I did another audition for 20th Century Fox Television for one of the main villain characters, and they hired me. I got my first mainstream TV series shows for Fox, Guide to Surviving Life. It's coming soon. Little by little, I'm getting close to fulfill what I promised to my grandmother and father. Now, I'm also helping people, families, kids, athletes to reach their goals and help them live a healthier lifestyle, teach them self-defense, conditioning, discipline, hard work, dedication, in our training facility, Llamas competition team, located inside Bakersfield, East Osmo. There is always going to be obstacles in your life, struggles, hard times, and sad moments. You learn with time to adapt to those situations, and you will fail a lot, but it's up to you to keep moving forward. Get up at least one more time. Sacrifices, hard work, discipline are the key to success, but not always lead you to where you want to go. Sometimes they will take you to where you need to be. The word limit is only an excuse of a weak body. We were created to be amazing, to do amazing things, to go beyond the limits. The road to success is very long and hard. Nobody's going to walk it for you. Find a reason, a motive deep inside your heart, because they will become the gasoline of your ride to achieve the goal you set in life. And when you feel you're running out of fuel, remember where you came from and never forget where you're heading to. Thank you to my grandmother for everything you did for us. And I couldn't be here without you. I accomplished the promise I did to you, and I hope you're proud of me. But I promise that this is just the beginning of my new journey, and I will go beyond this. I keep my heart young. I keep my mind fresh. I keep my soul free. I keep my spirit alive. I keep my will unbreakable. I keep the loyalty to my goals. That's how I live forever, even after I die. Thank you. You guys have any questions?
No. Any questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
I've heard a lot of transitions within your life, within like the field you wanted to go down. At what point did you recognize, you said, you know, I want to go into mixed martial arts, right?
Mixed martial arts.
Yeah. When did you decide that you wanted to go into mixed martial arts rather than taking like the orthodox way of being a consultant at Bright House? It was Bright House.
Bright House.
Yeah.
When I was working at Bright House, and basically every week, every 2 weeks, I send money to my family. And let's say it was a Monday, and I send all the money I have for my family, just enough to pay for my bills here. So when my mother called me, said that my grandmother was sick, that she needed money, and I have no more money, I already sent her everything. I couldn't find a solution at Bright House. I couldn't find with my friends like money, like a loan or something. So when I turned to MMA, they offered me the fight, and I made the money that I needed to save my grandma. So when I won that fight, and I saw that thanks to MMA, I was able to save my grandmother, that's when I realized that I want to do this, because that was the only option I had to be able to help her.
Okay. So that was like a pivotal point where you recognized that if you follow your dream, there could be a higher payout rather than following safety.
I guess when you love something or someone, you do everything you have in your power to help, and it doesn't matter the risk. Sometimes you do it because you have to. There's no option, and basically, sometimes you gotta think with the heart than the brain. And sometimes it might be the wrong option, sometimes it might be the right one. But you have to act fast, and sometimes it will lead you to success, sometimes not. It will take you to where you need to be at that moment.
Okay. Thank you.
Someone else. Yeah.
What do you train at now?
Right now, I have my own location. It's inside the East Hills Mall. It's called Llamas Competition Team. And we teach jiu-jitsu, wrestling, boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai, capoeira, and also we have different programs for kids and adults and girls as well. Oh, and also I opened a new agency for talented people that wanted to do acting, then music, like basically to do what I'm doing right now. So I'm trying to help as many people as I can. Somebody else.
Can you explain your belts up there, what they're from?
Yes. For example, the first one, that one is from Gracie Nationals. The tournament is submissions only, no time limit until somebody taps. I had to beat 17 people to get that belt. One of my matches lasts 45 minutes, non-stop. The other ones are similar, fighting bigger weight, bigger opponents, like absolute. Basically, when you compete in open division, you fight people with more experience, bigger weight, higher belt level, and whatever wins takes the belt. Some of them for MMA.
So what's the significance on the size of the belt? Some are smaller than others.
It's just some companies are cheaper, you know. They don't want to spend
bigger.
Yeah, they don't want to spend too much money in some belts. But, no, I don't think it's just whatever design they came up to.
Was there a competition or award that you won that really meant a lot to you?
Yes, that was, I think, one of my biggest regrets, I guess. I was really good at soccer, like really good, and I was about to play for a team called Atlas in Mexico. But because of the money, I couldn't do it. I did the tryouts, I did really, really, really good, but I was supposed to be there for 1 week. I was only able to stay there for 1 day because it was in Guadalajara, the tryouts, and I live like 5 hours away. I didn't know it was for 1 week. So I went there, and I only have my bus ticket for that night. Either I stay there and find a way home later on, or so my biggest regret is I should have stayed there and just find a way to get back eventually. But I didn't have money to, I didn't know anybody, so I didn't know where I was going to stay or eat or anything, and I only have like 50 cents in my pocket, so I came back home that day. That was my hardest regret, I guess. Anybody else?
When you compete, do you prefer to do like jiu-jitsu or do you prefer to do like MMA?
I became a well-rounded fighter. Sometimes I like to stand up. I like to throw punches and kicks, but some of my main strengths are capoeira and jiu-jitsu. So I guess it all depends on my opponent, because whenever you fight somebody, you have to study your opponent and see their weaknesses. So if he sucks in the ground, I'm gonna take him to the ground and finish him. If he's really good in the ground, I'm gonna keep him standing. And you gotta be smart.
Before your fights, do you have some type of like mental ritual or training ritual that you do before your fights to get you prepared mentally and physically?
Yes.
If you don't mind asking.
Well, mentally and physically, you do the training like prior to the fights. Whenever you step in the cage, it's just your head, like how hard you train, like you already prepare prior to a fight. And I do music before my fight, like I write my songs. I like it inspired me, and then I'm listening to the songs and I just step in, because the hardest part is not the fight. The hardest part is to cut weight and to train when you're dehydrated and weak. And the fight is easy. The rest, prior to the fight is the hardest part.
In anything that you've succeeded in, have you ever tried anything like envisioning yourself succeeding in it before you actually even got there?
No. When I was growing up, I think it was the way I grew up, because if you are not good at something, you will not eat. So when I was growing up, I had to be good at soccer because we bet money. If I lose, I did not eat, and I was already starving for days. So I have to win to eat, and it was basically for everything I did. Chess, basketball, volleyball, like you have no idea, I play everything. And I guess because of that and the way I was growing up, I became adaptable to whatever, and I also like the competition too. So they used to say I was como frijol de la conasupo, basically meaning beans from the how do you call it, the store, like the cheap store, picado y malo, like I try everything and I suck at it, but that wasn't the case. I was actually good. But I never see myself like succeeding. I was just doing it because I have to. Anybody else?
You faced a lot of obstacles and challenges in your life, but from what we hear, you're a survivor. And what is it that you would say to others that kept you going, that may be facing maybe not the same challenges and obstacles, but we all have those in our lives. So what advice would you give in order to get through that?
I think like some people are born in different situations. Some of them rich parents, poor parents, and we will have struggles in life all the time. It doesn't matter race, color, money, whatever you will have, but you have to find something deep inside your heart, a motive, a reason why you're doing it, why you need to be alive, why you need to succeed, why? Because that's gonna be the gas in your tank to keep moving forward. When you don't have a reason, a motive, the will of winning, the will of being successful, it will not exist. You need to find something or someone to do it for. That will be more powerful than anything. So find a reason to do something.